Hey everyone, welcome to With the Messenger. My name is Whitney, and this will be a Mars direct forecast for all signs. Mars went direct in the sign of Cancer at 17 degrees on February 23rd, 2025. And it will be going over previous grounds that it has done before. So from October 7th to December 6th, it passed through from 17 degrees Cancer all the way up to 6 degrees Leo before it started retrograding. And from January 6th to February 23rd, it retrograded from 29 degrees Cancer to 17 degrees Cancer. Now with this station, we're going back over those grounds from October 7th to February 23rd in our Cancer and Leo real estate from 17 degrees Cancer all the way up to 6 degrees Leo. And I'm only saying those degrees for those who have placements, a natal placement in the sign of Cancer in the sign of Leo around those degrees, because then it will touch that natal planet for you. If you don't understand what that is, there is a video in my description box below that teaches you how to cast your natal chart and just gives you a little bit of tips and tricks on how to read the natal chart. So do check that out. With this station direct, there is a trine to Saturn. But it had trine Saturn before. This is nothing new. What is interesting is it also trines Mercury in the same sign of Saturn in Pisces. And so Mercury, being the information god that he is, brings another layer to the story from what was happening back then. Perhaps back then you didn't have the information that Mercury is providing to you now. And Mercury will have a little bit of retrograde back into the sign of Pisces that is coming up in March also. So there's more that is building between your Pisces and Cancer houses. I use tropical astrology as well as whole sign houses. Okay, that's the best way for me to give you a general forecast. If you would like your individual one, I do offer personal readings, and you get a bit of insight into astrology along with your tarot reading. Okay, so check the description box down below for that as well if you're interested. So there is a fixed star at 18 degrees Cancer, so that is very close proximity to 17 degrees Cancer where this station is happening. And the fixed star is called Wasat, and it relates to, this is more on a mundane level, things that you can see happening in the world, right? Not everywhere in the world, but some parts of the world. Chemicals, poison, gas, violence, unfortunately, pessimism, so where people really might not have the best outlook. And this is an unfortunate star with the nature of Saturn and Mars, and Saturn and Mars are involved in this direct station. So I have no doubt that these things will play out, right? It also has to do with authoritative speech, so people being much more authoritative, using destructiveness as a first principle rather than trying to take the easy route, just going the real, not so nice, not so kind, not so compassionate route. And then prominence in public affairs. Okay, so especially countries, I would say, that has planets around 17 degrees Cancer or their ascendant, they could be the ones that be affected by this energy. I haven't looked into them. I know my country itself is a Cancer rising. I don't recall what degree it is, so I'm gonna see if any of this plays out, right? Let's get into your individual signs. We're going to start with Aries first and foremost. Aries, Cancer, Mars in Cancer is stationing direct in your 4th house. There might have been a lot of turmoil that has been happening in your 4th house since October. A lot of changes, it doesn't have to be all bad. Maybe some of you were going through a process of renovation that had to be halted, or things may have come up where you realize you have to put more energy and time and effort into your home. Some of you, especially if you're floating ICs in your 4th house, you may have moved. There could have been issues with children for those of you who have children while Mars was in your 5th house of Leo. Mars is gonna pass through there again, so things may come up with your children again. If that is the case, there could be changes that are happening in their lives if it's not a direct issue between you and them. I would say with Saturn and Mercury being in the sign of Pisces and trining Mars from your 12th house. 12th house is the energy of loss. So some of you may need to spend more money. For some, this is not for everybody, but for some, there could be a father figure, especially since Saturn is involved, whose health you may find out more information about. Okay, some of you may have to get really serious about your health, because 12th house, it does have to do with like hospitalization, and even if it's not your physical health, it could be your mental health, because it does have to do with mental institutions as well. Okay, the 4th house is a moksha house. It does have to do with release and surrender, especially karma and generational trauma from our family of origin. And the 12th house has to do with things that are hidden, subconscious programmings. So you all may really be having to work through that energy, especially with Saturn there. Saturn restricts wherever it goes. So if you're losing things, if you're losing money, if you're having issues with your children, when Mars is there in Leo, you may really have to look at things as from the base. And by the base, I mean the 4th house, because the 4th house is an angular house. It is one of the cornerstones of your life. Okay, I forgot to write when I started for Aries. Okay, moving along to Taurus. Taurus, this is happening in your 3rd house, and there is a trine to Saturn and Mercury in your 11th house. So I do feel this has a lot to do with siblings for you all, and extended family members, as well as friends, close friends, best friends, friends that you went to school with, and the way that you communicate and express things with these people. Some of you also may have wanted to put energy into a course of study, a short course of study, the 3rd house, so that you could reap benefits, long-term gains from your career in the 11th house. Because Saturn is there in the 11th house, it definitely would require some type of discipline from you, some type of restriction. With Mercury also now co-present, you may get the information that you need in order to pursue this. Some of you may be able to now finally go on a trip with siblings or extended family members or friends. 3rd house does have to do with marketing. So if you are in the field of which you market things, especially, if it's a business that you have, right, having to do with entrepreneurship, now you get the drive, now you get the gusto that you need to really market and sell whatever it is and reap some gains from your career. Okay, because the 11th house also has to do like mentors and gurus as well. So again, with Mercury there, I feel like you could get the information that you need, but with Saturn, there will be some level of dedication that is required from you. Okay, let's move on to Geminis. Gemini, this is a time for money to glow up for us. I am a Gemini Sun and Moon myself. So this is happening in your 2nd house, and there's a trine to Saturn and Mercury in your 10th house. These are Artha houses. These are the I have houses, right? I have a certain level of status. I have a certain level of assets, income, the way that I make money, the way I give service to others. And so this could definitely be a time where you ascend to a higher level of power in your career or status in your community, whether online or wider community or just where you work, right? With the 10th house there, Saturn being there. The restrictions, however, come from the demands that will be placed upon you for being in this position of authority. Okay, or you may feel like you have reached a glass ceiling in where you are. Mercury is also co-present, so I would say expect some news within the next week. Right, Mercury moves very fast, not like Saturn that moves slow. Mercury moves very fast. Will the news be set in stone? Maybe not, because we will have a retrograde happening in the sign of Pisces. I don't have here. Let me see if I could pull up very quickly from my notes the degrees in which it would retrograde back. Okay, no, I only have the dates, but I don't have the degrees here. That sucks. Give me a second here. Yeah, I really did not write this thing down. Because it's building right now in the next few days. There's going to be a Mercury-Saturn conjunction on the 25th. But I know there's going to be a retrogradation that happens. I just don't know. I just don't have in my notes how far back it's going to go. I think it's like 25 and the 4th degree. Very close in proximity, right? And again, I'm saying degrees for those who have placements around there, because then your natal placement will be activated, right? So either way, I feel your earnings will increase as a result of whatever this is that is occurring in your 10th house. But again, remember, there will be much that is expected from you. There is a bit of a retrograde that will happen, both with Venus and Mercury there in your 10th house. Okay, so just remember, whatever is happening now is not fully set in stone, because there's going to be a little bit of retrograde that happens, right? And after the retrograde, then you will see what is solid and what is not. Cancer, this is happening in your first house, this station. I can't imagine what it's been like for you all since last year, September, when Mars moved into the sign of Cancer. And there is a trine to Saturn and Mercury in your 9th house. So what I like about these two houses, they are Dharma houses. They are connection to spirit, to the divine, good karma, right? But I feel with Mars there in your first house, you have been having to show a bit of restraint. You have been having to examine certain behaviors and tendencies. You know, Mars in Cancer is a very passive aggressive sign, right? And they like to make this joke on Twitter about Mars in Cancer being that meme with the crab with the knife in his hand because they are very protective, though people think that they are weak, right? And it's when they get really pushed and they feel like they need to protect someone, that's when the other side of them come out. So I do feel you have been re-examining your belief system, and perhaps there are certain people that you looked up to, represented by the 9th house, mentors or gurus, that you may have saw them in a different light, especially with Saturn transiting there. Like, they may not have been really about what they say they were about. You may have lost respect for some of them, and some of them may have held you to a higher standard. You know, I know a Cancer who has had a couple run-ins with human resources. 9th house could be seen as human resources as well, since last year, like around September, when Mars moves into the sign of Cancer, right? So you have been under a bit of a microscope by people who are in positions of authority, and you also have been going through it a bit emotionally. I feel the end of November and early December, when it was in your 8th house, you possibly may have been going through a hard time emotionally, having to process emotions that perhaps you may have tried to suppress in the past, right? Or just try to keep a handle on emotionally. Okay. Now, the benefit of this Saturn Mercury conjunction in your ninth house, information could come to you to travel somewhere, to pursue some level of education. It could come through a mentor or a guru, or human resources, right? I feel like opportunities will be coming to you through people represented by the ninth house. You could travel, you could pursue higher education. If there was some kind of court situation, there could be their legal situation. There could be something in your favor that comes out. If you were trying to pursue a visa, a passport, now you're finally able to do so without all the red tape that maybe Saturn had presented, all the limitations. Mercury, here comes Mercury with the information that you need to push through on these things. If human resources were, they wanted a drug test, they wanted background check and all of those things, here you now finally have that green light. Okay, Leo, moving on to Leo. Leo, this is happening in your 12th house and 8th house. These are moksha houses for you. Okay, which is a lot about release, surrendering, healing. Okay, so this is a time of major healing for you, and that makes sense because Pluto is there in Aquarius in your 7th house, and so your interpersonal relationships, your attachment style, it's all undergoing transformation. The people that you're meeting and connecting with, they are creating transformations in your life for you. They're embodying Pluto's energy. Okay, I feel with Mercury there present with Saturn, there's information that could come to you. And I do feel that it's going to be through dream space or through like a reading, a psychic reading, an intuitive reading, through maybe even astrology. Okay, through the esoteric and the occult. Some of you, maybe it could even be through therapy. Okay, information that comes through to you that allows you to have some type of breakthrough in self-sabotaging patterns and tendencies. Some of you could, because the 8th house does represent surgery, the 12th house does have to do with hospitalization. Some of you could have some type of surgery that is life-saving or that is helpful for you. All right. If that is the case, so you may have already saw the health ailments from back in October of last year, okay, or September of last year. It may have already came up then. Now, when Mars reaches into your first house, I do feel direct this time. I do feel like you're going to be able to embody Mars energy without the limitations of the self-sabotaging patterns and tendencies from that 12th house. If you make money from foreign shores, there is a possibility now with Mars direct. Maybe you could get a bonus. Maybe you could have access to like ad revenue and stuff like that from the 8th house, because the 8th house does have to do with like shared resources, or you at least you get the information that you need to do this, right? With Mercury present there in your 8th house. Virgo, this is happening in your 11th house with a trine to Saturn and Mercury in your 7th house. This is relational houses. So a partner, a business partner, a committed partner, an ex-committed partner could be involved in whatever this change or transformation is from your 11th house, whether that be long-term gains from your career. Maybe some of you may go into business with a partner, or you embody a new strategy, maybe even marketing strategy. Some of you could get a contract, a work contract with this energy, to be honest. The 7th house does also have to do with our clients and customers. So you could have some type of breakthrough there also with a client or customer. but they may require more from you with Saturn present, or they may just come and give you more information on how you could get something done, and then here you go having to move on that, right? The 11th house does have to do with our friends, so maybe going to business with a friend. Moving along to Libra. Libra, this is happening in your 10th house with a trine to Saturn and Mercury there in your 6th house. Like Gemini, this is, Arthur houses, work houses, the I have houses, the how I give service houses, okay? So things definitely could be changing in your day-to-day life. You could definitely be putting more energy into your work now. And you may have saw this from back in October to December of last year, how things could be changing for you, how your daily habits and routines have been changing. Maybe some of you may have been putting a lot into your health with Saturn that has been transiting your 6th house. And maybe now you could see the results of it, right? Whether it's you getting information on what it is that you need to do for your health, and either you start to see the results of it, like the physical glow up of it, or you get the information of what it is that you need to do next. Okay, but again, Saturn's present is saying that there will be restrictions or demands upon you. I like to say it's more so demands rather than the restrictions, but people might see them as restrictions, right? But it's more so Saturn is saying, I demand that if you want this thing, this is what you have to do. So you could ascend to a new position of authority in your work, right? Having to put more energy there, and then Saturn is there in your 6th house saying, okay, and so I'm going to need you to do X, Y, and Z every single day, and this might not be something that you like to do, but if you want to have this thing, this is what you have to do. All right, moving on to Scorpios. Scorpio, this is happening in your 9th and 5th house, and like Cancer, this is Dharma houses. This is the house of good luck. This is the house of connection to spirit. This is the house of good karma. Okay, so some of you could be now pursuing a trip, getting your passport, your visa. This may have been something that you've been thinking about since last year, October, or a long distance travel trip that you have been thinking about since last year, September, October. Things may have been changing in your career. Okay, Scorpio, so that just turned off. I don't know why, but I was saying that things could have been changing in your career when Mars temporarily dipped into Leo. Okay, and so around April, when it moves into Leo fully, then you could expect things in your career to like really bump up. But in the meantime, while it's still there in the sign of Cancer, things that were trying to happen between your 9th house and 5th house, it's coming back around. So if some of you were in a committed relationship and you and your partner wanted to, I don't know why I'm hearing adoption for some people, wanted to adopt, wanted to get married. Now, these are things that can come back around. Wanted to travel together. These are things that could come back around. If you're someone who have some type of business or some type of hobby or skill that you're really interested in and you're trying to, invest in self-study, because night house could be self-study, this is something that could really take forward motion now. The 5th house also has to do with our children. So I don't know, maybe some of you could become grandparents if your children are old enough, because the 9th house can be seen as the house of the grandchildren, and the 5th house is your child's house. Or there could just be things that are happening in the life of a child for you all, since the 5th house does have to do with children, and the 9th house is the 5th from the 5th, right? So their self-expression or joy could be changing, right? With Mars, they are now direct in the 9th house. Like they have more energy that maybe before they weren't really able to fully express, or they were lethargic, or their health may have taken a toll a little bit, right? I'm a Scorpio rising, and my son's health did dip a bit during Mars stay in Cancer from November, December, and even here in January, honestly. And he's a Cancer moon. So Mars on its moon, you know, the moon also represents the body for those who don't know. So, yeah. And some of you, you know, maybe if you had a romantic lover who was from a different culture or was far away, now you two can meet up, okay, in person or travel with each other. For those of you who perhaps are in like alimony or child support cases, especially with Jupiter now direct in your 8th house, this is really the time where you could get that support that you need. Manifestation right now, energy should be high right now for you all with 5th house and 9th house activation, because like I said, that's your connection to spirit and God. So use it while you can. All right. Sagittarius, this is happening in your 8th and 4th house, and just like I told Aries and just like I told Leo, these are moksha houses. This is about healing, releasing, surrendering, letting go, right? Mars in the 8th house is not necessarily an easy energy, because a lot of what is suppressed and under the surface, even secrets that are buried and hidden there under the surface, those things could all come up, right? And it may very well have to do with things that are in your home, in and about your home life, since there is a trine to Saturn and Mercury there in the 4th house. Now, trines are very beneficial energies. They are the energy of Jupiter. So whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish there in the 4th house, it has the possibility and the support of Mars from the 8th. Okay, remember the 4th house is our private life. It has to do with our family. So those who are trying to conceive, that is a possibility. That definitely could happen. Those who are trying to sell a home, this is a possibility. It definitely could happen. I just want you to know, though, this presence of Saturn there in your 4th house. I know I've been saying this for some time, for some reading, that Saturn in the 4th house has been asking more of you, Sagittarius. It has been asking that you step up more. It has much more demands on you from the 4th house. With Mercury present, you now get information that you need in order to sell a property, buy a property, get a loan, get an inheritance, or where information comes to you about an inheritance. Remember, Mars is also going to go into the sign of Leo, right? Around April, and so that then moves into your 9th house. So if there's anything like with contracts and legal obligations, that then is when you're gonna start to see those actual movements and like things being signed and so forth. Moving on to Capricorn. This is happening in your 7th house with a trine to Saturn and Mercury in your 3rd house. So communication definitely could increase with a business partner, with clients and customers, with a committed partner or an ex. Okay, because the 7th house could represent people that we are once in a committed relationship with, and the 3rd house does have a lot to do with communication. Your mindset is changing. Mercury is very comfortable in the 3rd house. However, it is in a sign of Pisces, which Mercury rules Virgo, which is opposite Pisces, right? So it's not necessarily comfortable in the sign of Pisces, but it is comfortable in the 3rd house. Okay, so Mercury has a lot to do with processing information and communicating, and even like marketing. So if you're trying to market, or if you've been trying to market since last year to a certain customer or client base, you could finally start to see success with that now, Capricorns. The 3rd house does also have to do with a younger sibling. 7th house does have to do with a second child. The 1st house would be the first child. The 7th house would be the second child. So it also has to do with the second child. So the life of a child could be changing. The life of a sibling could be changing, or a neighbor. If you do have your floating IC in your 3rd house, perhaps some of you are getting information about a neighborhood that you live in, or that you want to live in. Maybe you and your partner could be deciding to move, or your partner is moving, you know, or you're taking, the third house is short distance travel, or you're deciding to travel. Some of you could, the seventh house does have to do like contracts and sales. So maybe some of you try to sell a vehicle or buy a vehicle during this time, since the third house does rules transportation. The third house does also have to do with like short courses. So maybe some of you enter into a short course. If that is the case too, like I feel that there will be some type of contract that is involved for you to do the course. Okay. All right. From the third house, perhaps a sibling could be holding you accountable, or someone in your community. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because of Saturn's present, and Saturn has a bit of demand. Okay. Or let's say you're moving somewhere, you have to travel somewhere, there's a lot of commuting that is happening. All right. Aquarius, this is happening in your sixth house and second house. So like Gemini and Libra, this is the I have houses. This is the Arthur houses for you all. So this is the way that you make money. Okay. I do feel that if you've been experiencing a lot of burnout, you know, feeling like you're having to work a lot, feeling like you're not getting much back from what you're putting out, perhaps this is the time things change, because Saturn and Mercury there is there in your second house, and perhaps you get information within a week or so from this station about a raise, about a bonus. Maybe you get a call back from a job interview if you had been looking for one. The energy is very favorable there. Let's say if you were trying to rent a property out or find a new place to rent, then this could be where that happens as well. If you had been making any dietary restrictions, especially when Saturn was retrograde there in your second house, because it had something to do with your health, this could be where you get the test results back that you know all goes well. And you have to, unfortunately, with Saturn present still, you have to keep up that diet in order for your health to stay on track. Okay. The sixth house does also have to do with our employees if you are an employer. So perhaps if you need someone to do something to help you complete a project, this could be the time where you're able to find the right person to do so. Okay. It may cost you though with that Saturn there in your second house, but the person would be an expert in what they're doing. You know what I mean? Pisces. 10-10. Okay, Pisces. So you're the last sign, the last water sign as well, where, you know, this is happening in your Dharma houses, your fifth house and your first house, respectively. Your expression, the way you get to express yourself is changing, and it's all positive for you all. You have good karma that is coming towards you. You're able to manifest easily now if you want to do so, because these houses are a connection to God, right? Mars is there in your fifth house, and now you could really experience joy and childlike wonder now. If some of you want to date, you're in a better space now for dating. If some of you want to conceive, though honestly, I don't really like Mars transit in the fifth house for conception, because that could also lead to miscarriages, right? But I'm not a doctor. I can't give health advice. I'm just saying, you know, Mars in the fifth house is not always the best. But it all depends on your chart and what else you have present there, in if you have anything present there in the fifth house. But this is a great time for dating, definitely, with Mars there, especially if you're a woman. If you're a woman or you identify with a feminine energy and you're looking for a masculine energy, this could be a really good time. You will be sober-minded with Saturn there in your first house. You won't tolerate the nonsense. I feel like you're going to finally be able to see the person across from you in a realistic way, right? And then with Mercury, there's like communication is increasing in, you know, who it is that you want to date, or just you're dating in romantic life. Like communication could be increasing there for you all. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and I should have a new moon in Pisces video for everyone before the new moon comes out. And until next time, be blessed.